The Competition Commission raised concerns back in 2021 about schools and uniform suppliers allegedly violating the Competition Act. Parents complained about inflated prices and exclusive supplier agreements that limited their choices. Despite undertakings to stop these practices, some schools are still not complying. This brings us to the question today. Should schools be allowed to have exclusive stationery and school uniform supplier agreements? Joining us for this discussion is Karabo Motaung from the Competition Commission, Principal Analyst there, and Matakanye Matakanya from the National Association of School Governing Bodies. Karabo, thank you so much for joining me. Matakanya, thank you so much for joining me. Really do appreciate it. How would you describe the behavior of exclusive supplier agreements, Karabo? Does it fall into the square definition of collusive behavior, or and does it lend itself to price gouging?
Thank you very much for having us this afternoon. So agreements between a school and a supplier in the ordinary case are not illegal. It is the impact thereof and the effect that it has on competition that would raise awareness, that would raise concerns, in fact, for the Competition Commission. So one of the issues that we found when we started looking at the relationships between the suppliers and the schools themselves was that, one, they were concluded without the schools having followed any pro-competitive process. So it was not clear how that relationship was established in the first place or how that supplier was identified. But also we found that those agreements were evergreen, so they did not have an end period. The supplier was never reviewed. And so what it meant is that any potential new suppliers that wanted to approach the school were not able to, given the existence of those evergreen contracts. And so that is why the Commission was concerned to say, one, we need to ensure that those agreements are entered into through a competitive process, but also those agreements need to be limited to a maximum of 5 years so as to enable new suppliers to be able to approach the schools and enter the market as well.
Who are the principal agents that negotiate and enter these agreements? Is it the school principal? Is it an official of the school? Is it an official of the district department? Or is it the SGB of the school?
What we understood from our investigations, and these go way back to around 2017, was that these suppliers would have had some sort of relationship with the school principal, right? And over the years, as the school changes principals, this relationship would move on from the one principal to the next. Of course, there are in certain schools situations where the SGB has been responsible for identifying school uniform suppliers, but predominantly what we have found is that these relationships were established historically with principals that have been heading the various schools.
Yeah. Matakanya, to what extent do school governing bodies bear a responsibility to safeguard the relationship, the contractual relationship that a school has with a school uniform supplier, especially in the instance where it's an exclusive supplier?
Oliver and Karabo, as well as the festive goers, happy festive season. I hope you guys look after yourself. You did not drink and drive, or you did not drive and sleep. Now, having said that, Oliver, is that this worries us a lot. It worries us a lot in the sense that now this is historical. Historical in the sense that you must remember that in 1998, then a law was enacted, Competition Commission number 89. And that was a transformational act to redress what has been happening during apartheid. You know, there were these green contracts during apartheid. But after that, then 1998, then we said, then the government said, now we must compete. And we must compete so that this question of a uniform also addresses the poorest of the poor. the working class, the rural, the deep rural, because they don't have money.
Yeah,
If you
Matakanya,
have
can I
a
just
green contract,
sorry to rush you onto this, but I do want to get to the point of the powers and responsibilities that a school governing body very specifically bears. Given your experience working with school governing bodies, what responsibility do they bear to ensure at least that the relationship is not one that is of a corrupt nature?
all the contracts are supposed to be signed by the school governing bodies. But as Karabo has already said, the powers of the school governing body are taken away, at times by the principal, at times by the officials themselves, because there are kickbacks. Then you'll find that now the school governing body do not have a say. But by the law, South African Schools Act number 84 of 1996, then gives the school governing bodies the power to sign for anything that has to do with the contract. And the contract, according to the law, it must not go beyond 3 years, because the term of office for the school governing body is 3 years. So it must not go beyond. Then you can't sign a contract on behalf of the incoming governing body. However, as I said, then all these people that I've said, they've got interest in this contract. They take away the power of the school governing body.
Yeah. Karabo, I know that you were investigating and studying only the nature of the contract and not necessarily whether there was a corrupt relationship between the parties entering the contract. But were there any sort of prima facie data points that pointed to potential corrupted behavior and relationships between the parties entering the contract?
To the best of my knowledge, no, we did not find any such behavior. But like I said, what we did find is that the principals that we did engage with, when we asked them, okay, how was this supplier chosen? No, the supplier was here when I got here. The previous principal, the supplier was here when I got here. So it really has just been a situation where one principal is just taking over an agreement or a contract that has been in place for many years without necessarily maybe not themselves knowing how far back that relationship goes.
Was there a general reluctance on part of the school officials, principals included, to review those contracts?
Definitely, there was. We are still getting some resistance from schools, but with them raising efficiency reasons, saying that having more than one supplier, may result in inferior quality, etc. But besides that, the concerns around efficiency and managing more than one supplier, we have not really had any other forms of resistance. I think those two are really what schools have been raising as a concern for them. But otherwise, there's nothing more actually.
Karabo, other than identifying anti-competitive elements, such as a non-competitive contract being awarded to a single party without seeing if there are potential other suppliers who could do it for less. Beyond just that point of anti-competitive behavior, was there elements of price gouging that raised concerns?
Definitely. I mean, if you operate in any environment where a supplier does not face any competition, it means that they are entitled and have the power to be able to set their own prices without fear that another competitor will come in at a cheaper price. So indeed, there has been instances of excessive pricing by the suppliers by virtue of the fact that they are the only supplier, and which is why we are encouraging schools to ensure that their school uniform is available from more than one supplier, so as to enable that element of competition, particularly on a pricing perspective.
Yeah. Matakanye, is there anything that prevents schools, logistically or procedurally or otherwise, to have more than one school uniform supplier to keep their environment competitive?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. However, then there must be competition. Then there must be a process where the competition is conducted. Then finally, the winner then will be appointed by the school governing bodies.
Yeah. In the environment, Karabo, are these suppliers generally large companies, large organizations, or is it a string of small family-sized, family-owned and operated businesses? What are we dealing here with? Are we dealing with large businesses that muscle everyone out of competition, or are we talking here about small businesses?
Look, when we started this investigation a few years back, what we had found was that these were very large suppliers, very large firms, who were actually supplying quite a number of schools, predominantly in the Gauteng area. What we are beginning to find right now, particularly in the rural areas, is that these are smaller suppliers who are growing much bigger in size because more schools are taking them on and as suppliers, right? And in that sense, then that the supplier that would have started very small is now growing bigger and essentially getting to the point where of the case that we had in Gauteng. So we are seeing that happening in the rural areas where we don't have much competition, and one supplier that starts off with one or two schools ends up really being the dominant supplier for the multiple schools that are within that area.
Yeah. Karabo, thank you so much for your time. Matakanye, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Karabo is with the Competition Commission and Matakanye is with the National Organization on School Governing Bodies.